And welcome back to Sullivan's Unheard Voices. I'm here with Gray. And Gray, I really appreciate you coming on to this podcast and talking about what we're going to talk about today. Because one of the things that's missing from this conversation about transition is the voice of somebody who's transitioning. And so I would love for us to have a conversation. And I would like to start that conversation like, when do you remember like a time when you realized that you were a different gender than the one you were assigned at birth?
It was the 80s.
Yeah?
The first time I remember experiencing gender dysphoria and not really realizing the words to put to it, I was 5 years old. And it's a vivid memory actually. It was the first day of kindergarten, and my mother, as much as I love her, desperately wanted me to be like a girl, and I just didn't. It just felt gross. Actually, it's just the best word I could put to it. I'm like, I feel icky. um, she put me in this dress because she was big on like fancy dresses, and I remember it was a blue dress that had like these like frills at the bottom of it, and just trying to imagine me wearing this. It
Right?
also had the white knee-high socks with like the lace on, right next to your knee, and the kicker, patent leather shoes, black patent leather shoes. And I remember standing there next to my mom, and she's like taking pictures. This is the first day of kindergarten, and my brothers were running amok, being themselves, and I'm like looking at my mom, going, "This is weird," and I don't like it. Like as soon as I got home from school that day, it came off like shorts and a t-shirt. I was a tomboy back then, or that's how they labeled me. But I didn't want to be my brothers either. I knew I wasn't a boy, and being a girl didn't feel right. I didn't. I was 5. I didn't know. I wasn't really given the terms to explore what that meant. And gosh, when did I realize? I think I originally identified as non-binary, and that was about 5 years ago. Um, I was at my best friend's house, and I don't know why I was doing her dishes, but I was. I remember being in her kitchen, and then I remember saying, I something to the effect of, "I don't feel like I'm a boy or girl. I'm just me." And I'm like, and it was like a pause moment.
Yeah.
And I go to my best friend. I'm like, did I just come out as non-binary? She's like, "Yeah, I think you did." Um, and then later on came out as agender, and that was probably about like a year ago, and things just progressed very quickly from there. I'm so happy to be who I am.
And I am too. Like, I do want to circle back, right? So you said you were a tomboy, and sort of, did you find like growing up with that sort of thing was, uh, like, did you get picked on a lot as a child? I guess it would be the question.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
the
Hmm.
kids were mean to me. There were a lot of factors that went into it. I don't know that it was so much the fact that I was a tomboy, though I know that played into it. But I was also pubescent very young, and like, I was 9.
Yeah.
So the kids were mean because I was different from everybody else, and that's and then throw the gender dysphoria into it. It was
I get it.
yeah, right on through to my 30s.
And so you're standing in the kitchen, and I want to also pause for a second on what you had said, and you said you had a pause moment, because folks who are neurodivergent like us understand what that means. Some folks who aren't may not. What do you mean by a pause moment?
Um, It, oh gosh, that's hard.
Right?
Yeah, that's hard to explain. I'm gonna try my best. It was like the thought that was rolling around in there since I was 5, and I didn't realize it until I verbalized it. And then I literally obviously, I heard myself say it, and then it's like, oh my God, it's like the missing puzzle piece.
Yeah. Where it all made sense, right?
yeah. And I'm like, whoa. It was a whoa moment. Uh,
And did you find a lot of support once you made that sort of statement?
um, Generally speaking, for the most part, yes. Actually, I've been very, I don't want to use the word blessed, but I can't find a better term for it. To be surrounded by a circle of folks, both genderqueer and varying sexualities and whatnot. I came out as a lesbian a few years prior, and I just made my chosen family, and some of my biological family members. They understand what lesbian is, but I don't know that they really understand what transgender means or what agender means. And I feel like they're struggling with it, but they're 1,000 miles away in Southern California. And the ones that are trying to understand, I'm like, that's cool. I mean, you knew me as cishet for 30 something years. And the ones who refuse to accept it, I no longer talk to.
I can understand that and appreciate that too. Like uh, I have a found family here in Salem that if I didn't have, I don't know where I would be in life. And the found family is actually way more supportive than my bio family in many ways.
Yeah.
And I don't think there's a problem having a found family. As a matter of fact, I encourage people to get a found family if at all possible, because finding one of the, and correct me if I'm wrong, one of the most affirming experiences in my life as somebody who's autistic is being around people who understand what you're going through and having people understand and support you as you go through this transition. For me, it was autism.
Yeah.
For you, it's this assigned female as birth transitioning piece.
Yeah.
Um,
Um,
Sorry, go
Go
ahead.
ahead. I, I'm also, I'm ADHD. I interrupt people like a lot. So I apologize right now.
This is a podcast of neurodivergence. You don't have to apologize for anything. We just go and we just talk. It's all good.
And being neurospicy, I now forget what your question is. Could you tell me again?
Yeah. So, like, yeah, tell me how much of an impact your found family had. Like, how important was it for you to have that sort of support system in place?
Um, I that wow, that's profound. I don't know that I would still be here. To be honest, I mean, to be like super blunt and to bring up a semi-sensitive subject, like, I mean, there's a possibility it would have just taken me a whole lot longer, which is what I think probably would have ended up happening, well into retirement. Um, but that the road to transitioning into who I am today, there are parts of it that are very dark, and without having that support of folks who just wanted to walk along with me on that path. I don't know that I would still be
Yeah.
here. Yeah.
And and so, like, once you made that decision, right? And because you have started your transition, you've already gone through the first phase of the surgery.
Yes. Transgender, for me, is solely the top surgery. I'm not transitioning anything from the waist down. Not at this point anyway. I have no plans on changing anything below the waist. I'm pretty happy with where that is. Yeah, puberty was confusing. um, and I used to be well endowed, and I knew I had like body dysmorphia like in my like 20s. I think is when I sort of caught on that something was up there, and I always had attributed it to my weight. I used to be thicker, um, but after I went through a divorce. I'm not sure why the light's like fading in my background. It's nothing I'm doing, I swear.
It's all good.
Cool, thank you. Uh, um, oh no, I lost my train of thought.
You were just about to talk about like the impact the surgery has had.
Oh yes. Honestly, the decision for top surgery is pretty recent. Last year, I would say, right around my birthday in October, um, I sort of dawned on me that part of that body dysmorphia was attributed to my perceptions of weight. But stress on perceptions, because beauty comes in all different shapes and sizes, and I just love it all. I really do.
Yeah.
Um, but I remember I had this full length mirror in my apartment, and I was nude at the time, and I'm just looking in this mirror, and I'm looking, because we all do that. And it dawned on me, I'm like, I remember thinking, these breasts aren't mine. I don't feel like I'm supposed to have these. And I talked with my best friend about it, who's also genderqueer, and it just, I don't know. I think I thought about it for maybe a couple of months before I contacted my primary care physician and told her that I wanted to refer to what my insurance carrier calls gender pathways. And I just started going through the process, and that took a year from start to finish. The top surgery was on October 1st. It's healing really well. It ended up being off topic. No, it ended up being more an invasive procedure than they had originally planned. It's actually super, super fascinating to research. I highly recommend it for anyone, transgender or not. Um, Originally, it was just going to be like smaller cuts, like right under where the breasts are, and then basically to minimize the scarring, the breast would be taken out of those two small cuts on the bottom. Well, in preparation for top surgery, went on a fitness journey that I'm still on. And when I had surgery on October 1st, there was still a lot of loose skin, even though it had been a multitude of months since there was significant weight loss. So they ended up having to cut me from armpit to armpit. So there's going to be a significant scar there. There's a lot of aftercare, like a lot of massaging to flatten the scar and to like minimize it. There's going to be a substantial scar, but it's just so above and beyond worth it, to like put my hand on my chest and feel like it's mine. It's
It's
like,
like,
oh, yes, I'm doing it right now. It's wonderful.
and you said it took you about a year. Was that a
Well,
year to get all of the paperwork and all that stuff? Like, why did it take
the
a
process.
year?
The process, yeah. Well, part of it was it probably wouldn't have taken as long, but I asked them to hold off because I wanted to wait until I was to my goal weight. So there
Okay.
was that. It probably wouldn't have taken as long. The plastic surgeon, who was just so wonderful, was very bluntly honest, which is something that neurospicy people need in our lives. Please be bluntly honest. She showed me pictures of what can go wrong if you don't get to a certain, as much as the BMI is flawed, that's what we use at that moment when you're having this discussion. And I'm like, my insurance carrier is only going to cover this once. I need to get it right. I would like to hold off until I lose some weight. And it was quite the process, but yeah, from beginning to end, it was a year. And so many doctors in this department, it's insane. Like I was referred by my primary care physician. That was not last month, but the previous November. And oh gosh, sorry, my phone is doing things right now.
We're not even noticing.
Okay, cool. um, oh, and then there was like an entryway doctor, I guess. That I had an appointment with where we had discussed what services I was requesting, and then I had to wait for a referral to a plastic surgeon, and that took a few weeks. Um, and that's the person whom I discussed about wanting to wait until the weight loss. So there was after that there was a another appointment to pre-assess things once I had lost the weight, and then so many appointments. And then when they got closer to this past September, when I got closer to my surgery date, there was another doctor. So many doctors, I couldn't keep track. I'm like, the good thing y'all's on my on the website to sort of reaffirm what I wanted before surgery happened. And then surgery happened in October 1st. And then there was, I've had, oh gosh, how many post-op appointments? Two. One was a week after. And the immediately after surgery, it was rough.
Yeah.
It was very painful. Recovery was really rough that first month. And then I had another post-op appointment a month after, and I have another one, like the final one's in January. So the process is, I don't want to say arduous, but it's it doesn't keep neurospicy folks in mind. It's like, what's happening?
Yeah. Yeah. It's the recovery process is intended to be very regimented, but when you have neurospicy, following that regiment can be kind of challenging at times.
Yes. And for me in particular, I could go on and on about that first month. By it being as that the procedure ended up being more invasive, I was encouraged to tell an ADHD person to stay in bed. They're gonna be like, "What?"
For how long were you supposed to stay in bed?
As much as possible. I was out of bed by the end of the day of surgery. I couldn't do
Okay.
it. I was on pain meds, I was on all of this, and I'm just like, I have to move. I'm going insane. So I did. Like, it was hard to stay. I'm the kind of patient in general where I'm like, when I'm advised to rest, unless I have the flu or something, it's like,
Yeah.
and still sometimes I'm like, I have to move. I can't watch a movie all the way through. Like, come on, man. It was tough.
And so, in terms of the process, right? So it takes about, you said you took a year because of the weight loss journey.
Yeah.
Would you say that the process itself, though, was pretty straightforward? That you were comfortable with your doctors? That, because I would imagine in Oregon it's way better than in other states in terms of the ability to actually get it done.
Oh, I'm not sure that I completely understood the question. I'm sorry. Could
No
you repeat it?
problem. Yeah. So did you find that the whole process in general was relatively, I hate to use pain free, but in
Um,
terms of the doctors and all that stuff, like,
yeah.
did you find that the system we have in Oregon, if let's say you have somebody that's interested in transitioning and they've been thinking about it for a while, but they haven't because the surgery component and like how difficult that process is.
It can be, yeah.
Do you find that your insurance company and your doctors not only supported you, but were very affirming throughout the entire process?
Um, Surprisingly so. Yes, actually, they
Yeah.
were really good about it. Um, the biggest piece of advice, like before the whole process, well, at the beginning of the process, is there is a letter that you will have a therapist fill out saying, "Hey, I'm in full support of this, transitioning if any kind of surgery is involved." So if anyone is considering surgery and they are engaged in mental health services, they're going to need to, because before they're basically cleared for surgery, um, they need to have that letter. I don't know if that's across insurance carriers. I would assume so. I know that's something mine requested, and my therapist, who I see on Wednesdays, is the best therapist I've ever had in my life, and I've had many.
Yeah.
So she was very, very supportive of the whole thing. So, yeah, I hope I answered your question. I already forgot
Oh,
what it was.
100%. Um, And I also wanted to acknowledge that just how important it is to find that therapist that is very supportive. Like it took me almost a decade to find a therapist that knew anything about autism, let alone was able to not only educate me but be with me through that process. And so I'm so happy that you were able to find one.
Oh yeah. I yes, I've had many really horrible bad ones, and there were some mitigating factors that led to it taking a long time for me to find a good fit, and that's really what it is. It's finding a good fit. Um, but yeah, I actually see that particular therapist for something else unrelated, but she was like full on board because I had been talking forever. But she knew very well what I wanted. So when I asked about the letter, she's like, yeah. We spent a couple of sessions on it. Forgive me, I'm plugging in a thing. Um, and and yeah, I submitted it, and that's when they cleared me for surgery.
And now it's 2 months afterwards, and you're starting to sort of recover all the way.
Um, Yeah, well, I'm fully recovered at this point. I
Okay.
mean, there's scar care still. My insurance carrier, because I would never not say which one. um,
I totally get that. They all suck, so it doesn't really matter.
they do kind of. They were really good with the gender transitioning stuff, but mental health, it's like, oh, it was bad. Um, oh, wow. I'm already forgetting the question. I'm so sorry. I- am I all the way healed? Yes. They originally, I guess, the insurance carrier required the plastic surgeon to say 4 weeks before you can basically resume your normal activities because there's a lot of like weight and like movement restrictions right after surgery, and that is so vitally important. I could go on and on about that too. Um, but my surgeon told me kind of off the record, like really it's 8. And it was 8 weeks as of last Tuesday, and it was 2 months as of yesterday. So I'm like, yes, and I'm down in the gym and I'm lifting weights again because I'm like, it's like the fitness journey is not over, and I've got one life well, in this life anyway, to get it right, and I'm kind of wanting to get cut a little bit more than I currently am. So it's just felt so good to be able to lift weights again. I'm like, yes. The movement restrictions. That's one thing I'd like to touch on, if that's okay.
Yeah, please.
Oh, great, because it's so important. At least for the first 4 weeks. For me, I started feeling normal at like 6. Um, don't lift, don't lift, don't lift. Don't lift.
Okay.
I I invested in I don't even know those pincher things with the handle on it. So if you need to like get something from a cupboard, like I'm short, I'm 5'3". So not only am I on a stool with what I like to call T-Rex arms, but I need to get like a jar of one of my herbal teas or something. I can't. I'm like, you're not supposed to do this or this or
Oh,
this
okay.
or
I get it.
this. There's a lot of movement. Basically, anything that would require carrying any kind of weight or anything that would require that your arms go any further than this right here.
Okay.
It's your body's going to tell you don't do that because it's very painful. I kept forgetting. Probably attributed to my neurospiciness, but my body told me, and once it did, I'm like, okay, I'm listening. um, and that's just, I've known of folks that didn't follow that recommendation and they ended up needing subsequent surgeries. And it wasn't, how do I put this, aesthetically pleasing afterwards. Because it's not, they're just wanting to fix the problem, more than there's more scarring that happens. And wow, I'm just going to right after surgery happened. I remember waking up from surgery, and I had this binder on me, and on this binder, For benches of blood for the squeamish. Okay. And there was these like tubes, bulbs, sorry, bulbs. There was a lot of
Mhm.
tubing, but there was these bulbs like sitting on this binder that were like safety pinned to it, and there was like serous fluid and blood in it. Um, and I'm pretty groggy because I just woke up from surgery. And I realized pretty quickly that, and I knew they were going to do this beforehand because there was some education around, hey, this is what it looks like right after surgery. These tubes that were surgically implanted into, I would say right under the underarms. And it's to collect the serous fluid and stuff that accumulates because, well, you're just cut into. Um, there is swelling that happens. How much, varies. Um, but those tubes get pulled out. Well, for me, anyways, they got pulled out a week after surgery. Right after surgery, having those tubes in there hurts. This is why they put you on
Okay.
pain. This is why they put you on pain meds because it was excruciatingly painful. And if you're a stomach sleeper or a side sleeper like I am, get used to sleeping on your back for a month because that's also and it's to mitigate the swelling that's naturally going to occur. Um, and I didn't sleep well. I had to take things to sleep, which I hate doing. um, and there was after they took the tubes out, there was it wasn't like really really bad, but there was definitely some swelling, and those are the areas where I had less feeling
Okay.
because of how invasive it ended up being. I retained most of the feeling in my chest, but under my arms a little bit, there's loss of feeling. And when the swelling went down, because my swelling's completely gone now, there's this the skin's a little looser on that, and if you're like really, really looking at it, I can see where it was, but it's minimal, and it's still worth it. So it's the recovery process is, especially during that first week, in those first 4 weeks, is grueling, and I just want to be like transparent that anyone that's looking at having top surgery, this is what you're looking at experiencing. I wouldn't want to not inform someone that this is what happens. um, and then they're like, whoa, what's this?
Yo,
Because they
you're
didn't tell me
100%
everything.
right.
They didn't
You
tell
know,
me
in one of
everything.
the yeah, and one of the things that made a huge difference for me when I had my surgery was just that, having other people that you can talk to that have through it, right? And there is a huge difference between the surgery I had and the surgery that you had, in that I'm okay to talk about that. And for some reason, in our society, we don't have permission to talk about these gender issues frankly and openly without judgment. And so I really appreciate that you're providing this information because people need to know what they're going to get into
They do.
and make an educated and informed decision.
They really do. Like, for example, do you want nipples afterwards or not? That's an option you have. Because of how well endowed I was, and the fact that the surgery did end up being more invasive, they literally had to remove them. And then they gave me the choice. And this is something we had discussed beforehand, whether I wanted any kind of nipples grafted back on. And initially I said, my phone's doing more things. It's not as charged as I thought it was. I'm sorry.
It's all good. We don't even notice. So,
Yay. um, I originally said that I wanted nipples grafted back on, and I think I was at a Pride event this past June, and this isn't coming from a place of judgment. It was more an observation, but I ran across an individual that had had top surgery and had the nipples grafted back on, and um, how do I say this? It's uh, I was very happy that they were walking, like loud and proud at Pride as they should be.
yeah.
But I looked at this individual and I'm like, I don't want my nipples to look like that. So that's when I made a decision to go without, and I don't have nipples anymore. And that also played into my agender identity. Like it's like for me and for each individual, it's different. Like if you want nipples, stay cool. You can
Yeah.
have
Yeah.
nipples grafted back on. But for me, it was just like um, I don't know. I don't know how to explain it, but it just affirmed my gender identity.
I appreciate that. Did they have a conversation with you about what the difference in recovery time might be if you did choose nipples over non or choose over the other?
Um, they didn't, only because I had changed my mind pretty quickly that I
Okay.
didn't want nipples. So I don't know that that would have made a big difference, but I mean, that's just it. I don't know because I chose something different.
And then the other part I'm curious about because when you're talking about agender,
Mhm.
uh, I also want to back up and talk about pronouns because I'm curious as to what your advice to people who are brand new to the pronoun game, right? Because a lot of people ask me all the time, like, what pronouns and how do I go about it? Like, how would you want people to approach you in terms of that?
It's that's actually kind of hard to answer because it's so individual. And I don't want to
Yeah,
like give off any like cliche answers. Like you're not going to hear me say you do you boo. Like
right.
it seems kind of dismissive to me that phrase. But I don't know. I mean, because I don't identify as male or female, the they them, which are, those are my pronouns, seems kind of to naturally fit. I have other genderqueer folks in my chosen fam that go by she they or he they or it depends on the day. And it's just probably the advice I would give is to do some soul searching. And if your pronouns change later down the line, as stuff is, I believe, for the most part, fluid, or it can be, then change them if they no longer fit. It's just really a matter of what makes you whole. For me, what's the phrase? Neopronouns. As
Okay.
wonderful as I think they are, I needed something a little simpler. So
Okay.
that's why I went with they them. Though I do understand why other individuals don't want to associate with pronouns that are so mainstream. I do understand that. I needed simplicity. I mean, what's simple to me, pretty much.
Yeah, and also like if people make a mistake, don't make a big deal out of it. Correct yourself and use the right pronouns that the person wants you to use. I don't see how that's so hard.
Oh, you just like soapbox. You just
Go on
like
your soapbox. This is a place for soapboxes.
yeah. I might need to grab something to charge my phone. I'm sorry, it's like hitting a little bit in the low.
No. And we're back. So thank you very much, Gray. Please, the soapbox is all yours.
Um, you're pronoun. No, oh
Yeah,
gosh, I don't remember. Where were we?
they them and like
They
how
them.
people. Yeah, if people make a mistake on there.
Oh yes, yes. Oh, I was just discussing this the other night at Friendsgiving. To each his own, but I don't celebrate Thanksgiving, so but still a time to be thankful. I digress. It's another soapbox. um, I didn't have words for what I was in the 80s. I wasn't given the space to explore that, my family of origin, as much as I love most of them. To be honest about that. um, I just, wow, I'm losing my train of thought really bad. Anyways, I didn't have the words growing up. So when I came out originally as non-binary, and decided I wanted to use they them, I was misgendering me. I was misgendering other folks. I was misgendering everybody because it's a change. It's a learning process, and I still find myself, as much progress as I've made, I still find myself. Um, don't lose my train of thought. Misgendering folks, and I kind of feel like, and this is my own personal opinion, but the folks who become intolerant of not getting it perfect, like before they were even mentioned, are just as bad as the folks that refuse to acknowledge it. It's like it's a learning process for us all. I mean, I think what I'll just say some folks don't realize is transgender folks have in gender nonconforming, genderqueer folks have been around since the beginning of time. I almost cursed.
Yeah.
Have been around, but we didn't. I'm losing my train of thought again.
But we didn't have the words and terms until fairly recently.
Exactly. Being transgender is not a trend. I've heard that.
Right?
And it's just that we weren't acknowledged. Wow, I'm getting on a bit of a touchy subject. We just, it drives me nuts that some folks see it as something that's new, and really, it's not. I mean, do a little bit digging, do a little bit of reading. Like there are other cultures, like outside of, I'll just say the U.S., where folks were celebrated for being transgender and being agender, non-binary, and two-spirit, and like all of it. It's like, celebrate? Why can't we just celebrate each other and hold each other up, whether you happen to be gender not conforming or not? Like, it just drives me
Yeah,
nuts.
why does it matter? I have yet to figure that piece out. Like, why? Like, how can a person go out of their way to make things difficult for another human being because they're different? Like, we're talking about just people. We are all human beings.
Yeah,
That should be all that matters. Like, we should be able to just be a human in whatever form we want to be, and just be accepted in whatever form that we are. And I
exactly.
just, as much as I beat my head against the wall because I see all this stuff in modern society where they still talk poorly about people who are experiencing the world in different lenses.
Oh my God,
And
yes.
so many people are
Yes.
treated like garbage because they're different. And I don't know why that is. And I can't wait for a day, and I don't know if we'll ever get there, but I can't wait for a day where people are respected and valued as the wonderful, unique human beings they are.
Exactly. I sometimes I have the feelings and emotions in the front of my brain, and like the word finding suffers. But yes, yes, I concur with all of that. Like it's I don't I don't know that that's gonna be a day. I don't know that that's a day we will or won't see in our lifetimes. But hey, I believe that we have many of them. So like hopefully the next lifetime it'll happen. It's just it's oh, another touchy subject. It's scary to be transgender right now. That's just the reality of it. It, being who I am shouldn't be politicized. It is, and it's like I just want to exist the way I was supposed to be. That's it, man. Like if you want to go be something different and you're not like hurting people, that I'm going to use that phrase I don't like. You do you, boo. I don't care.
Right? But you're
Let's go have
right.
coffee. Like let's go to a drag show. Whatever. I don't care. It's like it's just like and this isn't so much in my immediate environment is something that I observe nationally. It's, if you don't fit into that, I'm going to use another term, heteronormative box,
Yeah.
it, like you said, it's like the difference is sneaky garbage. And it's like, no, genderqueer folks have families too. I have 4 kids and 2 grandkids, and one of them's brand new. I was born a couple of weeks ago. And you know what? Like, I made mistakes parenting just like any other parent, but it's like my kids have a solid head on their shoulders and they're proud of who they are and their differences. And like, guess what? They're like transgender lesbian parent taught them those things. It's like we're people, man. Like, why do you care what I have going on above or below, man? It's no one's business unless they choose to share it.
Right? Like, and I get so frustrated when I see that out in society.
Yeah.
Because you're absolutely right. Like the idea of it takes, and I hate to repeat that, the same kind of thing you guys, I hate saying it. I even hate speaking it to words, but the parents have to be man and woman. Like you hear that rhetoric and like, that's so
A lot.
stupid. I know so many people that are gay that have raised kids, that are gender nonconforming that have raised kids, and they have amazing children. So put that crappy stereotype to bed because it's not freaking true. I'm sorry.
It's true.
And it just,
It's true.
oh, it pisses me off. Like, that's the one, that's my soapbox, right? Just like,
Yeah.
yeah. Mm-hmm.
I agree with you. I 100% agree with you. I do. Uh, Um, so it's this one of the reasons I want to do this podcast, and thank you for inviting me. This has been a first and wonderful,
Yeah.
and I just hope that it reaches some folks and that are transgender and really everyone, but it's like we need to band together because stuff's gonna get scary next year, and if we don't have each other's backs, who does? And not everyone that has our backs is transgender or even queer. There are some really good, decent, loving cishet folks out there. I'm related to quite a few of them. But it's gonna get more dangerous just to be authentic. And there's already so much um, emotional and physical violence out there for anyone who identifies differently, particularly as transgender. Because okay, I'm not gonna get on that soapbox. Not that soapbox.
No, but you're
Because
right.
I don't want to talk a whole lot about politics and kind of get away from the point,
Yeah. And even if you take a step back, right, and just remove politics from the conversation all the way, right? The reality is that people on this planet, in this country in particular, who are transgender, are experiencing hate.
oh yeah, yeah,
And that has, I don't think the hate that you see and the rhetoric that you see comes from one particular political party over another, as it is the kind of person that believes a certain way. And I think we need to come together individually and just say, you know what, we've had enough of this crap. Like, just accept people for who they are.
I concur.
Yeah.
Like I mean, if say for example, if again with the word finding,
Yeah.
um, like someone who identifies and lives differently as as long as, of course, they're not hurting people, and they're all like jazzed about who they are and living authentically, and that's where they find their joy. I mean, it's really all about joy, isn't it?
Yeah.
um, well, will I understand where they're coming from because I identify differently? Well, no, I'm not. And that's okay. We don't have to understand each other, lift each other up, and that's just where it's at. So I just kind of saw this as an opportunity to, I don't know, reach some folks, for lack of a better term.
No, I really appreciate it because, and it's an important conversation to have because, like you said, like we don't have enough opportunity for people with lived experience to speak their truth and to speak what's really happening.
Yeah.
What you normally see are talking heads that aren't a part of that community, that aren't a part of the culture, that aren't a part of this whole movement that's happening. And they're the ones that are controlling the voice. They're the ones that are controlling the narrative, as opposed to, hey, wait, let's pause and let somebody who is agender affirming come and talk about what it means to be agender affirming. Like, this,
Yeah,
I don't
exactly.
understand how heteronormative people have a say in the fight, I guess is the right word, is what I'm trying to say.
No, that makes sense. And there are some, wonderful allies out there of cis folks. So, I mean, what I don't want to do and how I don't intend to come across is that I'm like picking at them.
Yeah.
Hopefully, that's not what I'm doing.
Not at all.
But like heteronormativity as a whole, yeah, that. curse word just needs to go. It just needs to go. It's like, another one I heard, and this was multitude, I've heard many times over the years, is the gay agenda. It's just, I'm laughing because it is funny and it's not. I'm like, that's completely asinine. What?
I've heard that too, and I
It's like the neurospicy agenda. What? What's that?
and when you push back and you say and you ask for people to explain what they mean, 99% of the time they have no idea what they're saying when they say it.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Completely.
Like, tell me what you think the gay agenda is, and they don't have an answer
Yeah.
because it's not a thing.
Yeah, I remember seeing this meme, and it was of a bunch of windmills. I saw a lot of those when I lived in SoCal, like in the Palm Springs area. There's a ton of those, and it was like a row of these, and they were shooting out like rainbow air. Like it was like literally we're like trying to spread the rainbows and make absolutely everyone gay, and I'm like, hold on. Why would I be putting effort into this? Be straight, be gay, be pan. I don't care. I'm going to support you in whatever it is, as long as it's not hateful. Like, like I just don't understand it. But I don't.
You and me
I don't know what
both.
else to say about it.
Yeah. I don't think there's anything else to say other than stop that. Be kind to people. Don't treat people like garbage.
Completely agree.
Well, Gray, we've been at it for almost an hour.
Have we really?
Yeah.
The time went by just like that. I had a lot to say.
It always does.
One thing I will throw out there is that if there is anyone that is considering top surgery, and granted, I have my own nutty schedule, just like anybody else. If they want to reach out to me on Facebook or send me an email, I might not be able to answer right away, but I will answer because there's just so much more to, especially that first month. In that could be a whole nother podcast. But I would be open to like answering, questions and whatnot, because it's just part of holding each other up, and I feel like that's the only thing I should be doing.
Oh yeah, 100%. So how do people get a hold of you on Facebook?
I don't know how many Gray Youngs are on Facebook, but you're gonna see a picture of my nesting partner and I. Just look for the mohawk.
Yeah, you got it.
I don't think I'm going to be hard to find. And then also the email that I use most frequently is rebirth 8020@yahoo.com. So if for whatever reason folks can't find me on Facebook, because I do have some privacy, my privacy is set kind of high. Or they can't find me on Messenger, which, I mean, hopefully they could. Then they can get a hold of me that way. I get kind of weird with my phone number, so I'd rather not get that out.
Don't put that out there. Don't. No. No. No.
I'll never get to the
Even
gym.
if you did, I would edit that out, Gray.
Yeah, man. But they can email me or they can message me, and just as soon as I can get back to them, I will. And I'm just happy to keep that conversation going.
Which I really appreciate, because like one of the things that was the most impactful for me in my life on my autistic journey was that first one-on-one conversation with somebody that had been through the diagnostic period and have been through that whole transition of finally realizing you're autistic. And one of the things that I would love is for other people to find safe spaces where they can have conversations about everything about what you're talking about with somebody that's gone through it,
Yeah.
but also with somebody, and I know and I can attest because I've known you so long, who's not going to judge them for it.
Totally. Totally. Yeah, I'm in. You actually touched on something I'm going to be embarking upon when I could save the money out of pocket. I'm also pursuing my autistic diagnostic. Um, my insurance carrier is refusing to pay for it, and that's another podcast. So I have to save up almost 2 grand, and it just hasn't happened yet because my car needs some maintenance. So,
Yeah, I could talk ad nauseum about how crappy women have it in terms of autism diagnosis. The way the system is designed is just atrocious for women right now.
it is, and I was born and raised female, so
Yep.
yeah, I just yeah. Oh, another
And
podcast.
when the entire diagnostic is built on male dominant patterns, it's hard to it's one of the main reasons you have so many misdiagnoses of women who should be diagnosed as autistic but aren't because they're being judged as male typical pattern behavior. And I'm sorry, women don't have male typical pattern behavior. And so if your whole test is just how you react as it relates to a man, well, of course you're going to be off. And so I hope eventually they'll have changed that evaluation process so that they have tracks for more than one gender, but right now it's all male dominated.
Unfortunately, it is. And yeah, I would be very interested to listen to or watch the podcast because I know you've done a podcast. I know you've done episodes on that, and I want to see it because I'm about to embark on that journey just as much as I want to help out someone who's transgender. It's like I know who I'm going to get it through. I had one recommended to me, but I'm like, oops, my phone. Okay, so that might be a sign. I'm curious as to when this is going to air because I know I have folks that will want to watch it.
So this is going to go out on
If you don't know right now, that's cool.
Wednesday. What's that?
If you don't know
I
right
just
now,
want to
that's
make sure
okay.
what day. The 4th.
The 4th of,
Yeah.
oh, December. Okay, cool.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
And I'm not a technologically savvy person, so
No problem.
where would they find it?
So let's wrap up this conversation and wrap up a podcast, and then we'll talk about that.
Wait.
Because I want to close up with some advice, and not from me, from you, because I don't like to give advice on this show. Any last words for anybody that is sort of walking down this path or starting this sort of conversation? They're starting to think in their head, maybe I wasn't assigned the right gender at birth. Maybe I'm having these questions. Maybe I'm thinking about transitioning. What is something you want people to keep in mind when they have these thoughts and start to have these conversations?
Oh, wow. That's a whole nother podcast. I keep saying that. I think we touched on this earlier. The chosen family, having gender queer folks in your circle is brutally important because you're going to need to talk to folks. And especially folks that have gone through surgery, if that's something that they're considering. I've never done hormones, so I can't speak to that. I can't speak to bottom surgery. I can't speak to top surgery. So I was talking to a lot of folks that have had top surgery. Talk to your primary care physician. Um, Maybe even request a referral to speak to a doctor that specializes in gender transitioning. Um, You're going to be doing a lot of talking, and just really, I don't know, just do a lot of soul searching, and just know that the process is fluid, and it can change over time, and that's okay.